Now let's look at some scenarios. You have a student who's consistently quiet, well-behaved, and polite, but consistently struggles to complete their academic assignments. You suspect they may be facing academic challenges. They're great, but you're not sure how to support them. Where do you start? First, take note of what you're seeing. Talk with them about their work and what they're finding challenging. When it's possible, work with them one-on-one on those challenges. Next, communicate. Talk with your classroom lead and take a look at what plans already exist here for the child's education. If you're not sure what the plan for the child is, you can ask your classroom lead. They should have all of the child's academic goals and assessments. The child's plan is being regularly tracked and adjusted, and your observations are helpful in that process. And finally, going way back to the beginning of this series, recognize that child's efforts and improvements. What about this scenario? One of the kids that you work with arrives visibly upset, but they don't want to or can't tell you why. How do you approach the situation, provide emotional support, and determine the appropriate course of action? How much do you sit with them? How much do you give them space? Where do you start? First, let them know that you see and care, and encourage them to share their feelings if they want to. If they choose not to share, that's okay. If it seems like something is very wrong, for instance, if the child is completely inconsolable, or if another kid says that something happened, involve the staff. Otherwise, talk about things that aren't related to the problem at hand to help them get their mind off it. You can talk about their interests or share an interesting fact. You can talk about your own day or even just prepare them for the plan for the day. The goal is to redirect their attention and emotions. With older students, it takes longer for pretty much everything. It takes longer to build relationships, it takes longer for them to choose to share what's going on, and it takes longer for them to refocus on something else. Sometimes they'll need time and space to cool down, and that is definitely something you can provide for them. It's also really helpful to loop the teacher in. Even if a child's mood turns around, it's helpful for the teacher to know that he or she was having a hard time when they came in. For both older and younger kids, they might choose to share later, they might not, but it's great if they know that they can still talk to you if they want to. Okay, imagine this. You ask a kid to put away his or her phone and they blatantly refuse. Or they lie to your face and say that it's away when you can clearly see it's not. Or they put it in their pocket while it's still playing a video out loud. First, don't just let it go. Usually, staring them down and making it clear that you're not going to ignore it works. If that's not working, give them clear, limited choices. You can listen to me or you can listen to your teacher. You can also say something that appeals to their self-respect. So that sentence might actually end, "You can listen to me or listen to your teacher, but I think we both know you're old enough to put this away on your own." If they're still not listening, inform the teacher and let them handle setting the consequences. What about when you become aware of a concerning situation involving a student? You suspect that the child might be experiencing neglect or abuse at home, and you think the situation might call for involvement from program staff and from the Department of Children and Families. Where do you start? First, share your concerns with a staff member immediately. If there is immediate danger, we will report it to the correct authorities. Next, write it down. We have incident report templates. Write down what you observed or heard so that we have a record, and make sure you put your phone number on the report so we can reach you. After that, don't discuss it with anyone besides Homework House staff and DCF. After you go home, be ready to share your observations with investigators and Homework House administration. You may need to pick up your phone for a number you don't recognize because we may be trying to reach you about it, or DCF might. Lastly, make sure when you work with the child in question that they feel safe and cared for. Well, what about when you're not as sure? A child says something that feels a little concerning to you, but you're not sure if it's a big deal. It is always better to share it with staff than keep it to yourself. So let's recap quickly. Behavior management works best with clear expectations, positive reinforcement, modeling, and consistency. Your main job in behavior management is to support the classroom lead by offering kids verbal correction and keeping a caring eye out. If you notice a kid who needs a break, or needs some serious discipline, or needs a good old listening to, bring that up to the teacher and let them determine how and when that happens. Your good boundaries help kids form their own good boundaries, boundaries that improve their emotional and social well-being. And always, if in doubt, ask a staff member. We realize this was a lot. Thank you so much for being part of keeping Homework House a safe and healthy place for our kids.